in today's world, we have a lot of questions from different leaders about leadership, and also maybe they have questions, but they don't ask those questions because they just don't ask due to different reasons. And those reasons. But we'll cover all of them. We'll try to cover all of them, and we'll see what value we can add to leaders from different industries, from beginning from small businesses to big businesses, and we'll add value even to the students from colleges and from universities. Yes. So let's start from the first question about what is the biggest leadership challenges leaders experience these days in different industries?
Yeah, thank you for the question, and thank you for inviting me, Alex. And I never considered myself as a leader. I tried to do my best. I was in the military for 30 years. I run my own company, my business. But I believe in shared leadership rather than one person taking the lead and guiding the others. I mean, it can happen too, but I don't want to take the credit of leadership, but I have been observing very good leaders all my life. So based on my observations from the successful and not successful leaders, I can say a couple of things about this. And as you know, I work with several businesses, and they are run by good leaders, and I have a chance to observe different leadership practices. I'm also a part-time professor at University of Ottawa, so it also helps me to follow the literature and just compare the theory and the practice and what people do, how people utilize the theoretical background in the real life. But the whole world changed. Now the definition of leadership, definition of environment changed significantly. People COVID was one of the reasons, but now artificial intelligence and digitalization and globalization, those kind of factors changed the definition, the responsibilities, and the challenges of leadership significantly. I think one thing became more visible is the challenge of understanding the environment and making the right decision. So this is probably the most challenging task of leaders, making the decisions, because you cannot make the right decisions all the time, right? So even if you make the wrong decision, you are responsible for the consequences. So it's not just you are pulling everyone. This is actually a demonstration of the challenges that leaders are experiencing right now. We don't have a stable environment. We don't have stable conditions. So it's really became a complex environment for leaders, but they still have to make decisions, right? So the followers, the majority of the people, look in the eyes of the leaders, and they want someone to make a decision, and they want someone to follow. They want someone to take the responsibility. Implicitly, it's the responsibility of the leader, right? So technically, all organization is responsible for everything. But when it comes to failure, it's all leaders. So you can share success, and it is the right thing to do for the leaders. But if it is a failure, then you need to take the responsibility, and you may feel alone. I think the world is changing and becoming more complex. And by definition, complex means something that you cannot formulate. So one thing that works for one person or one company may not work for another business or another team or another person. Yeah. So that makes it difficult to have rule of thumbs, right? So in the past, I'm sure you know that many management researchers, they try to identify the 7 tasks of leaders or 14 duties of management and that type of stuff, but this is not applicable anymore. So you cannot have rule of thumbs in today's world, but you can be prepared for the complexity, right? Absolutely. So whatever you are going to face in the future, you can be prepared, and this is challenged. So it's a big transformation from classical approach to a more flexible approach. I see this as a big challenge, and I see some successful leaders who embrace this reality and adapt quickly, but I also see some old-fashioned, not senior leaders, but old-fashioned mentalities, old style. They have difficulty in adapting to the new world.
Yes, absolutely. I'm absolutely agree with you, and I think that adaptation to change is the most important in this case, because a lot of leaders, they just don't know how to adapt to changing circumstances. They just stuck with what they have, and they think that old way of leading or managing it will work. But based on my experience, I would say I've heard from different leadership experts that they say now leadership is different. So people have to lead differently because we have different world, and we have to take into consideration those points. But I'm not really agree with that. Why? Because only process is changed. Because leadership is the same. Because leadership is all about people. It's about us. It's about leadership ability to inspire and empower people. But the rest of the stuff is just management. It's just how about manage processes and how to adapt to changing circumstances. And only those leaders will succeed who can adapt to changing circumstances quickly. Well, the rest of the leaders also will succeed, but this is a question of time. And my point is that leadership isn't changed.
Yeah, maybe you're right. I mean, the practice of leadership might have changed, but the core of leadership, personality.
Yeah.
I like that definition because you're right. I mean, people are the same people.
We're people. We don't have horns after COVID. We don't have tails behind us.
Not yet. Not yet.
We're just who we are. We didn't change. Just processes changed. We just have to see reality. We have to see AI differently because people start using it more often and often. So it's just a tool.
How about the personality? I was wondering that too. Was it easier to manage?
Could you repeat, because connection wasn't stable?
Yeah. How about the personality of the people? I mean, do you think it used to be easier to manage because they were ready to follow the leader, or was it just the same type of people?
No, same thing, same people. Just one difference: before, people weren't so exhausted. After COVID, people become more exhausted and overwhelmed and frustrated. So this is just, but this is emotional status of the person.
Yes.
And leader's ability is just to understand that situation and understand what brings that person to that status, and then to dive into that person and understand what's going on there. So the leader's job is to inspire people, to follow them, because they are good leaders. They know how to connect with people. They know how to see best in people and how to bring out the best in them. But the rest of the stuff is just management, and all of the stuff that people and different leaders from different industries say that, it's different leadership style. We just need to lead differently. No. I'm not agree. Because,
I like that definition. It's a very simple, and it's like a compass for the leaders. I mean, you just need to inspire people and empower them.
Yes.
Let them achieve their best, right? So that's the core.
Absolutely. Because if you'll take into consideration 100 years ago or 500 years ago, we had same people. We just didn't have these bottles. We just didn't have these phones. We didn't have some books. So
it was the people.
Only people. So people lead people. People don't lead bottles. We don't lead this bottle. We don't lead this pen. It's just physical material. We just lead us. We can manage our body because it's physical, but we lead ourselves mentally and by heart also. And also, I just want what I want to just to to point out that a lot of psychologists, they say we have to understand how people think, and then we'll be able to understand how to motivate them. Well, from one point, yes, they're right. I agree with them. But what they don't say, what people feel, because we can understand logically what brings people, what inspires them, what brings them up. We can understand logically, but also we have to feel, because all of us, we have a magnetic field around us. We have energy, and how we energized, we have to feel. And all of us, we have, we have different frequencies. It's scientifically proved that we have electricity, we have
Yes.
energy. So if we feel, if we are not aligned with the person, if you're not stay at the same frequency with the person, we don't feel good while we communicate with the person. But when we stay on the same frequency with the person, we feel good, we just energized. And during communication, we energize more, we just charging like a battery. So this is not only logically, we have to feel people also. And only human interaction, when we meet people, when we see them physically, when they feel them, when we just hug them and shake hands and just we exchange with the energy. So only that. And we feel people's attitude, because people don't care what we say. They feel our attitude, because people hear our words, but they feel our attitude. So when manager comes to the people and tell them, okay, Stacy, John, okay, we have to manage these processes this way or that way. You have to use your tools, your phone, your some books, some, I don't know, whatever, some machine or some equipment, and you have to manage processes properly and so on. Did you understand that? Yes, sir. Okay, just move forward. But this is only managing processes. And by time, people become exhausted. Why? Because they're just managing processes like robots. And as soon as people understand that, they will start going down, and they will try to do less and less. And they will try. If I'll do a little bit less, somebody will tell me something, they do less, nothing. After that, managers, they don't care about people. And people say, why should I do this job if I don't have to? Well, I just have to do this job just to keep my job. I just will manage processes. It's like, I just want to tell you one story, what happened with me in Canada when I just arrived as a new immigrant. So yes. I had a job. I don't want to say which industry, but so I started as a regular employee. So I didn't know about that stuff, anything. Just I start from the beginning. I started to learn how to use some tools, how to use some equipment, how to fix stuff, and so on. And I started to work hard. After a while, running out of that. Oh,
yes, I'm listening. Yeah.
Okay. So after a while, after a couple of days, one guy came to me and said, Alex, why are you working so hard? I said, listen, why you guys coming to me and asking me this stupid question, why I'm working so hard? And he said, but people told you that nobody cares. I said, well, but how come? I have to keep this job. He told me, you will keep this job. Don't worry about that. Do you know, what is your salary? I said, well, it's not too high. So this is the question. Nobody works here like you. We also have same salary, and we don't want to work more. I said, well, but how you can keep this job? I said, we're keeping this job. I'm working here for 5 years. Nobody cares. Nobody cares here. Nobody cares there. We're just the numbers. So this is what happened with me. And then I started to do my job a little bit less, but because of my personality, I always like to do my job good. Because I cannot take shortcuts. It's not my personality. So
yes, yeah. So I think your hard work could possibly make others to look less working, right? Because you set the thresholds at a higher level.
Yeah, but again,
the others have to work harder too.
But again, I was working hard, and at some point I started to work less, and then I left the job because I didn't
Yeah,
like because I didn't like that environment. I like people, I like managers. They're so smart, they respect people, but they don't lead people. They just don't. They just manage processes, and all this story is all about managing processes. And this is just a perfect example to illustrate to people that when managers just manage processes, then supervisors just will manage processes, and people will
yes.
manage processes, and nobody cares. So this is my point about about leadership these days. So leadership basically is not changed. If people didn't know how to lead, they don't know how to lead.
Alex, it's interesting because it reminded me the story of my father who passed away last year.
Sorry about
he
that.
was, yeah, thank you. He was a worker. He didn't have a chance to go to school because he lost his father when he was 7 years old, and he was taking care of his mother and four sisters. And he was the only boy, and he was the only one who works and generates money. But he was a very hardworking man, and he didn't have any education. And I was studying my PhD at that time, and when we had that conversation, but it happened when he was 17 years old. He became an expert in manufacturing pans. Okay, you know, the pans for kitchen, yeah. And he was only 17, but in my hometown. And then the owner of the company offered him to take the leadership, take the management of the workshop. And they were, at that time, when my father took over the management, he was only 17 years old, and he had some employees like 40, 50 years old. And they were manufacturing 4 sets of pans per day. And he said, okay, I'm going to manufacture 5 sets without any faults. But as soon as I finish 5 sets of pens, you need to let me go, because he was 17. He was planning to go out and spend some time with his friends. And he was able to finish 5 sets by noon. Imagine, before him, they were manufacturing 4 sets in whole day, and he was able to finish 5 sets. He had a good team. He trained them, and what he did was he was literally exercising the total quality management practices of Toyota, but he had no idea about that, right? So he didn't read it. But his boss, and after a couple of months, his boss was very happy with the results. But after a couple of months, he said, I cannot let you go at noon. I want you to stay until late hours because I want you to manufacture more. So he quit afterwards. But I always remember his leadership style. He never saw himself as a leader, but this was what he was doing. And his employees, some of them were like at his father's age, but they were following his comments or guidance or leadership. But he was valuing everyone. You know, after decades, people, when they see him on the street, they will still hugging him. So he was able to build that relationship. And he didn't read any book on leadership. I was studying the theory and I could see the practice. And I also have seen some well-educated, successful people, I want in brackets, but they were not really practicing the core of leadership. As you said, I mean, they were managing the process. They seemed successful, but their employees, they were not feeling valued. And as you experienced, they were not trying to do their best. They were just trying to do the media core, just do whatever is necessary and not do anything more. So it's not leadership. It's like artificial leadership, if I call that way.
It's just management. It's just management.
Yeah. It's really interesting because and people can sense this. You know, I mean, even if 2 people do the same thing, you can immediately sense whether this person is valuing you or not, right? So then you have this, as you call this, electric or energy. So this bond happens very fast. In less than a couple of seconds, you either like your leader and you follow him or her, or you just do what he says, but you don't really see him as a leader.
Yeah, absolutely.